We're live, or not live. We're running.
We're here.
Yes. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, actually. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Yeah.
So, you're one of the few guests that I don't really know at all prior to this.
I know I'm a mystery.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just pulled up.
Yeah. I literally
me.
just found you on Instagram, followed you, and then you reached out.
I knew of your existence, right? Like I went to like past ASU screenings, and I'd see your name in credits and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah?
And yeah, like I basically I've edited some films. I don't think that you were in any of them, but were you in any showcase films for like senior showcase or?
I know this last senior showcase for ASU, there was one to where I played. It was the weirdest role I've ever played. It was this like Uber Eats DoorDash delivery guy.
I think I know of that one.
I think it was called like, She Took My Heart or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was one of the few that like I wasn't the lead, and I know how cocky that sounds.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one I played some like stoner guy that's like delivering pizza or delivering some food. So I was in that one, and then I think I heard from another friend or something that I was in another film for the showcase, but I cannot remember which one. I know there was a few. Trying to remember which ones I did for. Was there White Eye? Was that one of them?
White Eye?
Yeah.
That one's not ringing a bell.
No?
Okay.
Yeah. I had to look at my resume again. I honestly don't even remember all of the different things. I've been in a few short films and stuff, but I don't remember all of them. What did you edit that was in it?
Oh, for specifically this most recent showcase, I didn't edit anything in that one. I just pulled up because my friends were going to be graduating that year, and like I transferred into ASU actually like during my freshman. As soon as my freshman year ended, I transferred in as a sophomore.
Okay.
And a lot of my friends at ASU, they were freshmen, so I just kind of went there to support them and stuff. Like my capstone film was in the fall of like the previous year. I edited this film called La Solución Cuesta. It was about like a painter who gets like sucked into a world of crime after their brother robs a convenience store, and they get in trouble because of that. It's a really interesting short film. But
is that one that you wrote too?
No, that was just one that I edited.
Oh, okay.
I mostly like I specialize in editing.
Oh, okay.
First and foremost, but like I really like directing and writing like even more. I just think that in order to do those things like properly and in a unique sort of way, I think that a good understanding of editing is very important.
Right.
Because like pacing is like the best.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people underestimate the power of pacing. I know that. I can't remember what I was watching. I was watching I can't even remember. No, I wasn't watching something. I was on another set, and there's a cinematographer that was on it, and I was kind of just talking to him behind the scenes. And he was telling me that, like, Sons of Anarchy, there's so much I cannot say that word. Specificity?
Something like that? I don't know.
Yeah.
I may have got it completely wrong.
But there's so many specifics in a show like that people don't even realize. Like they have like the 1-2 count where it's like after each line they have to like wait like 1 or 2 counts before the next one. And so like there's little things in the pacing of that.
Yeah. And
obviously it depends on the genre. Like action movies and horror movies are gonna they have to be like super hardcore paced versus like a rom-com or something like that, where it's like very slow, easygoing, heartfelt type of stuff. So it's insane with like all the different pieces that editors and stuff have to splice together for those things. What software do you use?
My favorite one to go to is probably Premiere, I'd say. I think that like that one is just like the easiest one to really get into. I know that my editing professors, if they ever come across this, they're going to be complaining about how I didn't say Avid. Avid is difficult to use. Avid, here's the thing. Avid is great, right, for its storage, but there was one time my friend was editing something, and he was actually complaining to me about why I was using Premiere and not Avid for his film. And his film showed, and he had a title on the screen that just went, it like zipped off to the side.
No.
And it had like a whole crowd of people kind of watching, and afterward he like came up to me after that, and he was just like, "Will, I'm switching to Premiere," and I'm like, "Yeah, dude, I totally get that." Like Avid is great, but it's just kind of unreliable right now.
Right.
I think.
I started in Premiere when I first started editing stuff, and then I switched over to DaVinci. I had an old cinematographer friend of mine that I was the lead in his movie, and for his, he really showed me the ropes and stuff behind the scenes of what it's like for editing and all. And he was like, yeah, for the Hollywood standard, you have to be using DaVinci because color correction is so much more accurate and stuff in DaVinci. This is not sponsored by DaVinci in any way, by the way.
DaVinci's great though.
Yeah, no, I really like it. It has like its own like little flow and stuff. So I personally really like DaVinci. I don't really edit stuff that much anymore. I used to be a lot more avid with editing, but kind of took a little bit of a break from that. But yeah, when I do edit, I do that.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to DaVinci, the thing is, I bought a camera and it came with DaVinci, but I just never really got around to. Like,
oh, did you get the Blackmagic?
Like, yeah, I got the Blackmagic.
Okay.
It was for like just personal projects because I just made my own short film, and I'm like, hey, like, I make things. I should probably invest in like a good camera for myself.
Right.
Why not? And I basically just took money out of my savings and put it towards this camera.
Yeah.
And
hold the mic a little closer.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. I was just burping. I didn't want to burp directly into the mic.
A little bit ASMR here.
Yeah, exactly. Hi. No. Wait, where were we? What was this conversation about?
You got a camera.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I got it because I knew. I just thought it was silly in my head that I'm like, hey, I want to make movies for a living, and I don't have a camera for myself.
Yeah.
I was just filming everything on my cell phone, and that's not professional. I gotta like learn how to like use actual cameras on my own and just like do all that sort of stuff. Yeah, and that was why I got that. But it came with DaVinci, and I still don't know how to properly color grade. Like, basically, like, I was at ASU like when they still had Sun Studios, and they didn't have.
Did they not have it?
They did not have the mix center yet.
Okay.
Like the big building with like the Dolby Atmos and like the color suites. Like we didn't even have editing bays when I was at ASU. It was just like me editing from on my laptop in my apartment, and it was just chaos.
Really?
But
honestly, I didn't even know they had editing bays there. I've never actually seen the behind the scenes of the ASU editing stuff. So I don't even know what all they offer to students.
Oh, it's really nice. Like even like I'm not in the sound field, but like for the sound people, they got it stacked. They have a Foley room. Do you know what Foley is?
Is that where like they go in and they have like a person that does all the sound stuff? Like they play it on the big screen and then they kind of like get, like paper and ruffle it together.
Yeah, they got one of those. Like they have like a little like pool for like water and stuff where you can take your hands and like mash it and like have like the water sounds kind of go through it.
Really?
It's crazy. It's like they didn't have any of that when I was going to ASU.
Dang,
crazy.
So that's all pretty new then, right?
Very new. Yeah, I went on. I basically like I just finished editing a feature, right? And like I was editing a lot of it at that building because the people who shot the feature, they were students at ASU.
Okay.
And they just wanted to meet up there so I could show them the most recent cut. And while I was there, I was just looking at all the editing suites and all the new stuff. I'm like, wow. Yeah. This is crazy. They were advertising this stuff when I was like planning on like attending ASU, but then like all of a sudden it's just like I'm gone, and now it's there. I think it got slowed down due to COVID, which sucks.
Yeah.
But
I hate when that kind of stuff happens. I remember there was like a couple of schools or something that I went to that I was like, it'd be so cool if they had this. Like literally the year after I graduate, they have everything upgraded, like all new. I'm like, y'all are lucky, okay? You guys get the new shit. You guys get the good shit. I had to do this like Jimmy rigging the crap out of it.
It's cruel. It's
messed up, man. That's crazy that you jumped though from using your phone straight to Blackmagic because like you didn't even have that awkward stage to using a shitty little DSLR.
I like for some reason I just find myself doing that quite often. I just like jumping off the deep end and doing things that I probably shouldn't be doing at probably the time that I made it. Like for example, right during my capstone that I was editing. Back when I was a senior, I went out to California and I shot this short film called Piece of Paradise with like 2 actors from Arizona. We like we rented out a beach house in California and we shot like this whole like 24-minute short film like down by the beach and over like the course of 5 days. And it was just me. There was no crew. It was like just me on set. It was chaos, but like it was so much fun and of course, there were parts that like sucked because like the audio was bad since then we
Right.
didn't have a sound guy. It was by the beach. We couldn't control the wind. It was just like, bleh. But I just kind of threw myself in there, and I'm very happy that I did. But I find myself just doing that a lot.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel like that's sometimes the best thing, though. Like, when you're starting with anything, like, yeah, sometimes it is good to take baby steps. Sometimes you kind of just have to say fuck it and go off the deep end a little bit. You kind of just have to, you know what, I don't need to do all this other stuff, and just get your feet wet a little bit, mess up a little bit along the way. I feel like there's a lot of, like, lessons and stuff you can learn with doing that. And then sometimes it's just like, if you're just going straight in for it, kind of just learn along the way, you know? Instead of like having to get a DSLR and do all this, you're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna get the Blackmagic, I'll have the quality there, and then I can learn everything along the way, but I'll already at least have this.
Yeah, like before I shot that film, like going out to California and stuff, I always like looked up like YouTube tutorials and stuff. Just kind of like, those are really helpful.
Dude, those are amazing. Everything you can learn on YouTube now.
Yeah, did you hear about how like Everything Ever All at Once, like all the VFX was done learned through YouTube tutorials?
Are you serious?
I'm serious. And also like all the people who did VFX, they were not like people who like studied VFX. They were just normal guys.
That's
Like that's crazy.
That's not like one of those like low edited videos too. That's
not at all.
That's a straight up like.
It won the VFX Oscar. Like it's freaking insane.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense, though, because I've gone on YouTube to look up, especially when I was trying to learn DaVinci, I wanted to learn a lot of, like, how to do this effect and how to do that effect, and there was, like, 3 videos in, I was learning, like, how to, like, make stuff jump out and do all this and do all that, and I'm like, yo, you guys are teaching all this on YouTube? Like,
yeah.
The amount of education you can get from something like YouTube, I wish you could just, like, literally, like, oh, here's a degree, just watch, like, 10 videos, and then you have this degree almost.
Yeah.
That would put universities out of business.
Yeah. And I might be wrong about this. I'm pretty sure the people will blow me up on Instagram if they like if I'm wrong about this. But like I remember that like have you heard of Blender? Blender. It's like from my understanding, it's like a VFX like creation software that's like free, that like people are like actually like using
Really?
and stuff. It's like free to the public. Anybody could download it. And
Is it
it's
like
just,
another version of After Effects?
It looks much crazier. Like I've seen people like create things in like Unreal Engine and stuff like using it, and it's just like
Really?
It looks wild. But
So it's like an alternative then to using After Effects without having to pay an arm and a leg for it. Is that pretty much what it is?
I don't know. Basically, all I know is that like I've seen people do crazy things with it. Like I had our friend Elias who like color corrected Piece of Paradise, who would like show me the stuff that he'd make in it all the time. And there was one time like he created like these whole freaking like landscapes that I would
Really?
like, never. Like, yeah, it was wild.
That is insane.
So yeah, people just have that tool for free, and like all you have to do is just learn it.
Yeah.
And it's awesome.
Honestly, I find that there's a lot more like free softwares and stuff coming out because I feel like developers are realizing that like publicity is the best form of advertisement. Like as soon as I think it was like Fortnite came out and it was like the one game it was completely free, it blew up like crazy. It was like more talked about than like any other game I had ever heard about that time, and it was because it was free and then you could just do like in-game downloads and stuff. And then there's like DaVinci where you can pay for Premiere Pro, which is what I was doing for a little while, or if you don't really need the 16K or 8K type of stuff and all this other BS and you just want to do like basic stuff, you can get the free version and you can have just as good editing power, if not even better, than Premiere Pro. And then now like that, where it's like another VFX type of software to where I can guarantee you that like they probably have a upgradable version to where if it's like, you know what, I got a little taste of this, but now I want a taste of this.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be $100 a year? Boom. I've already learned how to use your software. I'm loyal to it. Like people, if they're loyal to something, they're going to stick with it.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. Like, how do you think Apple got so big? I mean, people are just loyal to Apple. They knew how to bring people in to make it to where, like, oh, you have our iPads, you use our computers, you use everything. We'll release another thing, charge you an extra couple $1,000s, even though it's nothing different than the last one.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always the downside to that too, with like Apple just being Apple.
Oh
like,
yeah.
with the when I discovered the whole thing about like Apple like slowing down like old phones
Oh,
in
yeah.
order to like that pissed me off.
Oh, that irritated the absolute living hell out of me. So I was like, y'all don't need more money, okay? Like, be happy you guys already get money from all this kind of stuff. Why y'all have to like slow down all the other devices? But I mean, I know that they already got reprimanded and stuff for all that, but I mean, there gets to be a point where they kind of get a little cocky, a little bit too like, oh, they're already with us, we can just pull strings even harder.
Funny story about Apple. I actually, Piece of Paradise, with the film being completed and all, we put it into festivals a couple of months later, and it got into the Chinese theater in like Hollywood.
Oh yeah.
Like it got into there for like a day at a festival called Indie Night Film Fest. But the weird thing about that fest is it requested that everything be submitted on like disc, right?
Like
which
a
was
physical disc?
like a physical disc, which was weird. So, and basically, I double checked my laptop and I'm like, wait a minute, there's no disk drive on this thing.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to like get that? And then I go to Apple, right? Because apparently Apple has like the whole like disk drive thing.
Yeah.
They're charging like $70-something for a disk drive.
It sounds like the new
something-
thing with like the new phones. I was watching this video on YouTube about the new iPhone that's about to come out. I think it's like the 15 or something. I don't even know honestly what they're up to. I'm still I think with like the 13, but the new 15 I think it doesn't even come in a box. There's literally it just comes with in this like velvet bag.
What?
And there's no cords at all in it. It's literally just the device.
It's
And,
just like a little brick thing.
yeah, just like the little phone itself, and then like obviously like the user manual or something. But there's no cords, no nothing. It's really just the phone. It's like wow, they even did away with the box now.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like that is the most stupid thing. Like they're trying to say that oh, it's more efficient with shipping and cheaper, and it's more environmentally friendly. It's like actually no, because now there has to be a whole additional packaging for ordering chargers, for ordering headphones and bricks and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. They're charging even more than they ever have, but including less than they ever
So the
have.
charger doesn't even come with it. It's just.
There's no cord, no brick, no nothing, just the phone.
So like when you get the phone, like you just kind of hope that it turns on, and if it doesn't, that's wow.
Well, I think they're relying more
Good job,
on
Apple.
yeah. I think
Good
they're relying
job.
more on wireless charging, and then I think I saw that they have the new USB Type C, and so they're trying to just do that. But I don't know. There's just like a bunch of stuff where I'm like, come on, like y'all have like the biggest selling phone of all time. You guys don't need to continuously cut costs or try to cut corners on everything. It's just not cool, man.
Yeah.
So you graduated college already then, right?
Oh yeah, like I graduated in like fall of last year.
Oh really?
Oh no, not fall. Sorry, spring of last year. My bad. And after that, I went back home just to kind of like look for work for a bit. And coming out of the film school as like an editor, it was very difficult to find work. It took me like 4 months roughly to actually like find an editing job that was like actually like usable like with my degree.
Really?
In the meantime, I worked at like AMC as a cook.
Really?
Yeah. But it wasn't that bad though, because it's like I've worked like minimum wage jobs like before college even. I worked at like 3 different restaurant jobs. I worked at when I was 15, I worked at Jack in the Box. When I was like whatchamacallit, like when I was like 16 or 17, I worked at Einstein Bagels, and then I worked at Denny's later as like a server.
Yeah.
And it just it was a decent job. I got free movies, and since I go to movies often, it was just a sick way to cut costs in the meantime. But I was still like, I gotta get out of here. I knew.
Honestly, at this point, so in the hometown I grew up in, all they had was Harkins. But then I moved here, and I discovered AMC. And I found out, I think AMC is cheaper than Harkins, at least for like the reclining seats and all that. So for me, I'm a huge movie buff. I love, like, that's my favorite thing. Me and my girlfriend would go to the movies probably at least like once a week almost, depending on what new movies and stuff are out. But at this point, I'm like, I've never even thought of joining like a loyalty program, especially for a movie theater. And then now every time I go, she's like, you really should join this thing. I feel like you're losing money at this point, like hardcore, like more money than necessary, especially with like getting snacks and getting drinks and doing all this, because I go to the movies so often at this point. So
yeah, like when I was actually at ASU, I lived at Union Tempe, which is like an apartment that was like a building that was right next to like Mill Avenue,
Yeah.
And because of that, the AMC was just right there.
Right.
And me and my friend convinced me to actually get that subscription thing. For
Really?
a bit. And it saved me so much money. I saw everything, even like the bad movies that I wasn't even going to check out. And I already do that regardless. But like it was such a nice thing to have, just knowing that I didn't really like pay too much money for it.
Yeah. So you said you started working at 15 then?
I did start working at 15 at Jack in the Box just to get like work experience. I'm not even sure if that was even like legal. Is that legal?
Oh yeah, I got my first legal job by the time I was 13. I started
13?
working when I was 12, a little bit under the table.
Jesus.
I had a friend of mine, his parents owned like a dog grooming shop, and so I used to bathe dogs and stuff for them. It was more of just like, here's $20 for the day, or probably a little bit more, but like I would be there for a couple hours, wash a few dogs, and then go home. So it was that, and then I worked in a restaurant as a busboy and a host from like 13 to like 13 and a half to 14, and then a grocery store after that as like a bagger and stuff. So I think it's just like depends on the insurance for the company.
That's yeah.
I don't know exactly the youngest you can get hired. So far, I've heard 13, like at that restaurant. But okay.
Yeah, because I feel like I got let go because I think people did catch on to my age.
Really?
When I was working at Jack in the Box at that time, because it was just like I was doing my job. I was just like just getting everything that I needed to get done at that job. And then I think I said like some cringy like 15-year-old shit around people, and they're like, "Wait a minute, how old are you?" and then they caught on, and I was just and then I think that like I had like 2 weeks left. Like I already put in my 2-week notice, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like you don't need to come in for those 2 weeks. You're good. You're fine."
That's literally identical. Like at my first job at 13, I think they realized, because I had like, it was like my first week there, I had like literally 6 people like, "How old are you?" Because like I've always had a baby face, especially when I shave. I look at least 5 years younger than I actually am. So when I'm 13, no facial hair or anything, you can only imagine. It's like, what is this 9-year-old doing in this place? And, how old are you? And I'm like, I'm 13. And like, wow. And so I can guarantee you probably one of them was like, "Hey, why are you like exploiting this child for child labor stuff?" And like, I don't know if that actually happened. I can probably guarantee it probably did happen, especially with how, because I didn't hit puberty, I don't think, until I was like a sophomore, junior in high school. Like that's when I finally started growing a little bit, hair started popping out, and like all the uncomfortable stuff, voice started cracking. So at that time I was still squeaky voice, under 5 foot, no facial hair to be ever seen in existence. So at that time, it's like, I can imagine that. And then I remember that's when I got my job at the grocery store. And I was like, "Hey, so I've never quit a job before. How does this work?" My mom told me I have to put in the 2-week notice. And so it's going on. She's like, "No, just, you're good. Have fun. Go away." I was just like, "Oh, okay, sounds good." And I look back and I'm like, "Oh, I know why she said that."
Yeah.
I definitely know why she said that.
Yeah. Just... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that went. I think I know why they kept me around at first. Like I think that I was able to easily like sneak past it because I was actually like pretty tall for my age.
Yeah.
Like at that time, and like in high school, like I played volleyball. Because
Really?
of that, they kind of they noticed that I was tall, and they're like, "We need you on the team."
Yeah.
And then that's how I got involved. But
how was it playing volleyball in it was high school, you said?
high school, I sucked.
Yeah.
I was terrible at it. I was like an outside hitter.
Did you get like teased at all for like being? I imagine you were probably the only guy on the team, right?
No.
No.
We had a
all-guys team?
whole dude team. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was like all indoors. Since it was in California, it was pretty big. Yeah.
I've never heard of a school, especially with an all guys volleyball team.
They have an all guys volleyball team. They have like an all like women's volleyball team and stuff. It was actually like pretty common. Like a lot of people, even from the football team, ended up on the volleyball team, and it was it was kind of funny how like because they had like different sports seasons at the high school, so that's just how that ended up being.
At my school, it's completely different. We'd have the football season, and then in an off season, it would be basketball, And if that wasn't in season, it'd be wrestling.
Yeah.
Like it was just like all like the masculine type of sports that everyone plays. Sometimes soccer.
They still had those. Like they still
Yeah.
had like them all around. It just like volleyball was just another sport that they had.
Yeah.
And
kind of just a way to keep themselves active.
pretty much, yeah.
Dang. I wonder what kind of skills would be transferable from volleyball to football.
I don't know. I imagine that like isn't the whole like objective of football being like this giant like ball of mass basically like running this ball down a field? Like I don't know how that would help with volleyball.
Yeah, I can't think of exactly. I know that
because you'd want to be flexible for volleyball. Like I don't know like how.
maybe it does help increase like flexibility. Maybe like for dives and stuff. Because I know with volleyball
Possibly.
you sometimes have to do dives.
Actually, like, yeah, I guess that is a trait that could be carried over because like football people aren't afraid to be hurt. They aren't afraid to like get like just completely destroyed.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So, yeah.
I mean, I have heard of like football players going into things like ballet or dance because it helps with agility, it helps with flexibility and just like endurance and stuff. And like for me, I grew up as a dancer, and so I wanted to do football when I was in high school. I was way too tiny to do it. I would have been absolutely just demolished. I would have been killed probably my first year in it, just because of how tiny I was. And like I guess I didn't hit puberty until I was like middle of high school. So if I would have been on there where you were seeing like some 3'9" peewee trying to run in between people's legs and stuff, trying to run it, but I was also fast as hell. That's why like I did get asked a couple times to be on the team because of the fact of I was so small, so that made it to where I had so much endurance. I was able to like sprint past anybody. Do you want to pour some more stuff in your?
No, I think I'm good for now.
Okay.
I was just kind of like pushing it over to the side. Yeah.
But okay, so what got you into film, or is that just something that you just always wanted to do?
To be fair, like I think that I kind of got into film. It was a weird journey, right? Like the first job that I ever wanted to do as a kid was I wanted to design roller coasters.
Really?
As like a kid, like I was basically that's just seemed like the dream, right? Because I was just like I saw like how horrified people would get on them, and I was just like, yo, I love tormenting people.
Oh
this will be great. And then just
I love that.
Yeah, and
I want to torture people.
I want to torture people, and then like I think that kind of came a bit from like my dad, not the torture part, but like the design aspect, because he was like in architecture and stuff like that. Like he basically like would go to buildings and make sure that they're structurally sound and make sure that there's like water leakage and stuff and like that they're not there. I don't know what that job's called, but yeah, that would be like his job. So I think I got that from him. Then following that, I went through like the typical boys phase of like wanting to be a baseball player or wanting to be a big football player.
Baseball?
I did play baseball.
Really?
At like in elementary school, I played baseball all the way through middle school, and then I quit because I sucked. And then and then afterwards, I wanted to just be a writer. And then I kind of like started to piece together all those things in my head. I'm like, I want to scare people. I want to do some crazy stuff that makes people like odd, like in like in baseball, just like. And then I want to write stuff that kind of like hits people emotionally. And I'm like, okay, what are all those things kind of combined together? Oh, like filmmaker. That could be a great job for me if I want a job with all those sorts of aspects to them.
Yeah.
And I kind of like really, it kind of solidified after I saw the movie Birdman when I was a kid.
Okay.
Yeah, like I saw the trailer for Birdman and I'm like, this looks weird. And then I asked like my dad to take me, and I was just blown away by it entirely. I completely couldn't resonate with the story at that age because I was like 14 and it's about like not having your art accepted and stuff. And I'm just like, what would I know? I was 14, like I didn't know anything. But yeah, I was just like visually and like with sound and the visuals alone, I was like blown away, and I was just kind of like, I want to do something that's like emotionally powerful and visually stunning and just every sort of aspect like that, because it's just I want to make something that connects with people.
Right.
And then because of that, I joined like a high school digital media class, and that's how it kind of all started.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And are you from Arizona then?
No, I'm from San Diego, California.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I went to high school. I grew up all down there, and then I transferred over to ASU because I could have gone to like a normal film school like out in California, but at the same time I'm just like,
good film schools out there.
But the thing is, it's like my family don't got that money. You know,
Oh,
I don't got that money. My family doesn't have that money, and we were just kind of like, you know, ASU is starting to have like a bit better film program apparently.
Right.
How about you just and then I kind of like the idea of, to touch on what we were talking about earlier. It felt like I was just jumping off the deep end, going to somewhere that I did not know anybody. Just and I thought that I really liked that idea.
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up in Arizona.
So kind of just chasing the uncomfortability aspect, then kind of just
Pretty
getting out of
much.
your comfort zone. And
Yeah.
I like that. I really respect wanting to do that. I feel like I know I've talked about comfort zone a little bit on here already in previous episodes, but it is so important to do something like that, to get out of your comfort zone, to really exercise that part of you that gets you uncomfortable, that part of you that's like just taking the chance in the deep end. Because I'm sure because of that, I'm sure you've gotten some amazing opportunities, met some amazing people that you wouldn't have otherwise met, still staying in San Diego.
Yeah, I feel like just in retrospective, like growing up like in that one location of San Diego, it feels like you're just kind of growing up in like a bubble.
Yeah.
Right. Like basically, like I've seen like some people in San Diego just like spout the most obscene shit, and then they would just kind of stay in that bubble, and they'd have like they wouldn't even bother to go out and talk to different
Really?
people outside of their social cliques, and it's just like it's annoying.
It's funny. I've been wanting to like go to San Diego. Like I was thinking, like
But-
being an actor, a lot of people are like, oh, so you're gonna move to Hollywood and stuff. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. Like
There's nothing wrong with San Diego itself. It's just like if you grow up in that environment and that's the only environment that you're used to. Like San Diego's known for like sunny beaches and like things just being really nice all the time. And just in general, like if you grow up in that environment all the time, you just have not experienced the world. You don't know anything.
That's literally how I feel about growing up in Flagstaff. Because like growing up in Flagstaff, I don't know if you've been to Flagstaff or not.
I've not.
But it's all just trees, mountains, and all that. And like whenever you're a tourist there, you look and like, oh, everything is gorgeous here. Like how could anybody ever get tired of this? It's fresh mountain air. You can see the stars at night. You get all four seasons, and like from an outside perspective, it looks like paradise. But when you grow up in an environment like that, you grow up to where everything is nice like that all the time. Too much of a good thing makes it to where like you don't appreciate it being good anymore.
Exactly.
Like for me, I've never been to San Diego, so for me, I'm like sandy beaches, hot weather, all this kind of stuff. That sounds like a dream. Like how could you ever not like it? But then it's like in your perspective, that's what you grew up around.
Yeah.
So
it's just and it's like when you're kind of like, and you've seen how like some like rich people get like when they like grow up with money and when they have basically like, oh, like why should I do this because blah, 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 blah. Like there was one time like when I went back to San Diego, like I was like basically seeing a person and they were talking about how they do not think that they should tip their waiters and waitresses, right? Because it's like I already paid for the food. Why would I tip?
God.
And I'm just like, that's bullshit. You really
like,
don't
you realize
know.
they don't get commission off the
You
food,
you
right?
realize that the tip thing is like a thing because it's just a way for the restaurants not to pay them like the actual
Exactly.
like.
If you don't tip, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, if you don't tip, that's
for
a
those that
pet
are
peeve.
listening.
Yeah.
If you don't tip someone, you are a piece of shit.
You're a piece of shit if you
Like,
don't tip.
I'm not going to reel that back at all. Restaurants do not pay anybody that is a tipped position, even quote unquote tip. If there's an offer of tips, that is the excuse for companies to pay like shit.
Yes.
Like I don't care what the job is, if there's an option for tips. In the job description initially, it's going to say this is a tipped position, so you are tipped or you're paid at minimum wage. Therefore, that person is not paid off of commission of food. That person is not paid off of the meal or anything like that. It is up to that tip to compensate for the lack of the pay hourly.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people get that because in other countries, they don't do that. In other countries, like they're paid.
Yeah.
Like I've heard that like tips aren't accepted in other countries.
They're
Well, not accepted, but it's not like the social norm because the pay doesn't reflect on that. And they're like, oh wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
And so like when they come here, I can usually tell when it's like someone not from here because it's like I can tell by the tip, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And like they have an accent, like, oh, you're probably like. I don't want to be judgmental or anything, but like where you come from, they probably don't really tip, or if they do, it's probably not that much. Because I'm like, this was like an $80 order, bro, and this is very hard for me to bring out, and you're tipping me $5 on this $80 order. Like that's, I'll give it to you because I can tell that you're not used to our social norms, but
Yeah.
it's still like, come on.
It's just like, Yeah, just as long as you get out of your comfort zone, that's where you want to be.
Yeah.
The second that you're comfortable, become uncomfortable. That's my recommendation.
Yes.
Totally yes. Like if you ever like have the cold side of the pillow and you're enjoying that cold side of the pillow, flip it over to the hot side, hate yourself
Yeah.
for a bit, and you'll see the world.
Honestly, it's been such a game changer for me too, like trying to find the uncomfortability factor, because on the other side of the uncomfortability factor is where the best parts of life are. You'll get to meet people that you've never would have met originally, or you get to do things that you wouldn't have expected. I try as much as I can, at least a few times a week, to do something that's out of my comfort zone. Like this podcast is pretty much out of my comfort zone. I'm not used to talking to random people 2 or 3 times a week with doing this type of stuff and then releasing my voice. I hate listening to my voice.
I hate my voice too,
I
honestly.
hate watching myself on the screen. I hate all of that. And yet that's what I decided that's what my career is going to be.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's definitely a thing that more people have to exercise, I feel like. So with your family, I know you said your dad was like an architect and stuff. Do you
Yeah.
have like creatives in your family that kind of induce more of this artistic bug for being in movie making?
Specifically, like from my family unit, not really. Like
No?
not really. It's mainly just like my dad that would be that would focus on like architecture and stuff like that, and that was unique and all. My mom, on the other hand, is a professor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she just got her doctorate actually at
wow.
at San Diego State University. Like she teaches there.
Congratulations,
And
Mom.
yeah, congratulations, Mom. And yeah, and like my sister, she's basically she's going to community college right now, still figuring things out for like what she wants to do, which is not a problem at all. Like I remember like going through community college, still being somewhat like very confused and like unsure about like where my life is going to end up
Yeah.
at the end.
Yeah.
And my brother, like I love him to death. He is like low functioning like autism.
Okay.
So basically, like he can't really like speak, or and we basically like we take care of him
Yeah.
a lot. So other than that, like I'd say like my dad is probably like the most like creative, like in quotes, basically,
Yeah.
because like his job typically doesn't really require like much of a design aspect as much as I thought it did back when I was like a kid.
Right.
But like it was more just kind of like making sure that like buildings don't have leaks, or that there's no like that every building's structurally sound. There's not really.
Right.
Yeah.
So with not having parents that kind of already have that artistic itch to scratch, how did they react when they found out that you wanted to be in movie making for a career?
They were actually very supportive. They
Yeah.
were very supportive. Like I think that they just kind of knew that I was very much like the jump before thinking type of person, and they just kind of thought, oh, filmmaking, yeah, sure, go
Yeah.
ahead, you could do that. And
So they supported it
and
100%.
they supported it. Yeah, they have supported they've supported this whole thing, which is nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, but like I know like a lot of people who are like also in like my position who like don't have parents that are
Yeah.
like supportive, that are just kind of like you're not looking at the money aspect of it. You aren't like, but that's just I don't want to do a desk job for the rest of my life.
Right.
You know, like right now, for context, I'm working at PBS at
Really?
At Phoenix in downtown at like Cronkite, and I
PBS.
got like an office and everything. But like that being said, I don't want to be there the rest of my life. I just kind of like, I think that it's a great job and I'm like doing my work there, but at the end of the day, like I do want to do a creative stuff.
Yeah.
Like I want to write films, I want to direct, I want to edit, and that's my end goal. And I think that PBS is like a great opportunity for me because I'm able to use the skills I
Right.
learned in college. But yeah, like it's of course just kind of like, it's good to be here, but
Yeah.
like I kind of, it's a really great stop, I think, for a moment.
So what does your job at PBS entail?
I basically cut the commercials.
Oh, so you
Like
edit the commercials
I
together.
cut the promos for PBS. So like for like local productions and stuff, I make custom promos for them that are like, there's a show we're currently airing on PBS right now called Trail Mixed, and like I would have to cut together clips like from the episodes into like a little advertisement for it that's like 30 seconds, and
Okay.
make sure that it's proper for air, make sure that the sound's good and the quality's all nice. But that's just my job, and in addition to that, I have to schedule out the other promos that are sent in from the main offices. Like, for example, we get shows like Sesame Street, we get things like Masterpiece, like Downton Abbey and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I have to just slap tags on it for Arizona time, because I think that, like, you know how like something would show in Eastern Standard Time, but it would be completely different from West. We have to do that for Phoenix, so we have to like custom create like the exact times and make sure that people know when and where to watch it.
Yeah.
That's my job right now.
Okay. So, from your entire life growing up, what has been the biggest obstacle, like the biggest struggle to get to where you're at now then, through like working for PBS?
I'd say that the biggest struggle would be
like the biggest hump that you can remember that you had to endure, that like give you the biggest lessons that you could have learned, or just like the time to where you really thought shit was hitting the fan hard, that you thought that there might not have been like an escape, and that like this is it, this is where the road stops.
There was the thing is, like, kind of growing up, I basically like my sister and like my brother like required like a lot of attention from like my parents growing up, and because of that I didn't really like have much like attention from them, so it was mainly just kind of like me figuring things out for myself. And there was one time where like I almost got like scammed out of like thousands of dollars, basically.
Really?
Because I was just I thought I got like this job that would like be about like editing, right? And I like looked into it, and like, to be fair, the paperwork that they did give me and like everything like over the phone, it did look legit. But they were really like modeling themselves after like a real editing company. I would look up the editing company, it exists,
Right.
and it's just like I almost like I feel like I didn't like I feel like that whole moment itself, I just realized I'm screwed. I'm not ready for like the adult world. I don't know, like, I don't understand like the internet. I don't understand like where people are coming from, and it was just kind of scary, because it just like people are like I have dreams, right? But other people are ready to just come in and like fool me, and like
100%.
it's just I'm not. It's a scary thought to have.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
It's just, that was like one moment where at first I had to pause. I'm like, I don't know about this, but then I got over that, and I just moved on with my life. But it was still just such a scary thing, because like I didn't know whether or not to trust like job offers coming through email anymore, because it was just like, who knows, one of them could be a scam,
Right.
or one of them could be like, it's kind of like phishing. Do you know what phishing is?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's like that. Like, one of them could just like flat out be a fish, and it could just like ruin my life if I like dig deeper into it. And it's just like, that was one thing that really like scared me. As a whole. Yeah.
I went through some similar stuff. I remember when I was younger, I wanted a job so bad. I just wanted to make money. I didn't care how it was. Like, I wasn't financially supported at all by my parents after the age of like 9 or 10. After that age, it was completely like, they would obviously give me food and keep a roof over my head, but anything else I had to provide for myself. And so at that time, I'm like, I'm desperate for some money. I'm not old enough to get an actual job yet. And I remember it was a job listing on Craigslist. And I answered the job listing, and this guy was like, yeah, sure. So basically what you're going to be doing is I'm going to be sending you this information on these rental properties, and you're going to be posting them on Craigslist. It's a copy, cut, and paste job. You get paid like $500 per listing that you do, or some BS number like that. And when you're telling that to a 13 or 14-year-old kid, there's not a whole lot of red flags that are going off. There's just, oh my God, I'm getting some bank.
It's like,
for minimal work. And so I literally just sat at my buddy's house posting this, like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm just doing this job I found on Craigslist. And then there was a little bit later to where I think he sent I can't remember if it was the same job or if it was a different job, but they sent me in the mail this thing of checks, and he wanted me to like deliver it to somebody else or to go do something.
Yeah.
And I got the checks. I'm like, oh wow, because they looked like real checks, but I brought them in, and they were all.
It was e-checks, right?
No, there was like actual physical checks.
Yeah.
Is that an e-check?
E-checks, yeah. Like basically, did they like have you like printed out?
No, I didn't print anything out.
Oh, okay.
It literally came in like a package of these checks, and the guy was like, he was like, do this, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. And he's like, okay, then send it back, and I'm like, I'm not gonna send these back. I can't. I gave them to the bank already, and they're investigating. And he was like, flipping out on me. He ended up, I think he was like part of some organization somewhere else, and he ended up threatening me and my family, saying that he was gonna come kill me, come kill my family if I didn't give these checks back. And so I literally had to have a cop come to my house and wait like 1 or 2 days at my house to make sure that nobody was gonna come after us.
Yeah.
Like these internet scams get bad sometimes.
Yeah, like there was it got crazy because the thing is, it's like I would like go to my dad occasionally like, throughout the whole application process, and I'd be like, hey Dad, can you have a look at this? And it would always be like at a point where it just seemed like somewhat normal in the text. And basically like I would come to him like later at, like whenever something sketchy would happen to it, I'd be like, hey Dad, they're asking for this, and they'd be like, oh yeah, just do it, son, just do it. Yeah. And like it kind of like, even though they didn't end up like scamming me as hard as they did, they got a bunch of shit about me. Yeah. And I was just like, damn, I don't know how I'm gonna get over that.
It gets scary. Like they know how to target younger kids, especially those that like aren't as supervised.
even like not just younger kids, like full on like they're getting smarter. They are like, they're
so smart.
Like basically like there was one thing where it was just kind of like I got an email just like a couple days ago where it was talking about how like, hey, here's your receipt for some like amount of Bitcoin on like, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like what? And it was just like, it looked legit, like even with like the craziness of the Bitcoin stuff. And it's just like, I even knew that it was fake, like right off the bat. The second it said Bitcoin, I'm like, oh, cryptocurrency bullshit. Like, cool, whatever. Right. But I was still at the back of my head, I'm like, damn, like I could totally see this like fooling someone else. Oh yeah,
especially like one of those like middle-aged people that just learned about Bitcoin and just learned about how all this is. And it's like, oh, doing this. And I was actually working for the bank. One of the banks I worked at, we had this old lady come in, and there was this guy that contacted her, and she was like elderly, so she obviously didn't know how to do a lot of stuff on online banking, and there was like some sort of IRS scam, I think that she was involved in, and she came in, she said, yeah, I was on the phone with him, and he got access to my account online through my computer, and I was like, oh god, this is not going somewhere good. And then we go on, and she was like, he told me that he deposited too much money and I needed to send the money back. And we went into her account, and sure enough, there was extra money in there. But then I saw in the fine print, it said transfer from savings. And I'm like, whoa. So I went in and I saw that this guy went into her savings account, transferred like $100,000 from her savings to her checking account. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, now you have to buy some Apple gift cards for $9,000 and send it back out. She bought these Apple gift cards.
That's insane.
She went and bought these. She didn't give the guy the code or anything, but she bought these Apple gift cards. And I was like, no. He didn't do anything. He didn't transfer any money into your account. He transferred money from your own account to another one of your own accounts, and then is trying to get you to send him this money. And she was like, okay, so what do I do? And I'm like, honestly, well, you already bought the Apple gift cards. My only best bet would be to sell the gift cards if you can, or try to get some money out of the gift cards. Mm-hmm. But like, it's so sad to see like these people that are so oblivious or just not educated taken advantage of like this. Yeah. With these scams, you know. Mm-hmm. So,
but like outside of that though, like the biggest hurdle I'd say for myself, like another like hurdle I'd say, like outside of just like simple scam thing like that, it would probably just be like believing in like my own ideas, right? Like sometimes, like especially like when I was like growing up, I would just like make things for the sake of making things without any much like thought or anything. but still, like, I would, even in that case, I'd be like, do I really like this idea? But now,
Yeah.
like, now I only really make stuff if I like the idea.
Right.
Like, it's just, if I'm basically, like, if I'm sold on what I'm doing, if I've, like, written the script, if I've, like, still, if I've worked on it, like, so hard up until that point, there must be something there.
Right.
Like, there must be a reason why I'm putting this on the paper.
Yeah.
If it's not just...
So is it kind of like an imposter syndrome in a way?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you're always just kind of thinking about how you could be better
Yeah.
at your work, and if you don't want to, because the thing is, like, the more stuff you make, the more, like, of a fan base that you sort of have with that content, and you, like, even though at the end of the day this all just does not matter, right? You still at the same time are kind of, like, concerned, like, will my fans like this? Will my fans not like this? And it's just, the best thing to do at that point is just to, like, hush that part of your brain and just make it, because the real fans will stick around regardless of whether or not, if you make turbo garbage and they're like, yeah, this is fire, then those are the real fans. Those are the, but
it's hard to get those fans though. Like
it's
hard.
hard.
Loyalty.
It's hard. Yeah.
It's so much easier, I feel like, to get not the fake fan base, but like the clout fan base rather than like the loyal ones. Like, there's artists like NF who have one of the most loyal fan bases ever. Obviously, it took him probably triple the amount of time to get the fan base of the size that he has, and so it's taking that much more. But it's like, because he had to work that much harder, because he had to continuously put himself out there like that.
Yeah.
For someone versus him versus like one of these other rappers that like within 1 to 2 years they're at 4 million plus streams on each song and a huge fan base and selling out. It's like, for them, it'd be good for that like little decade or like 2-3 years. But it's like, at that point, what do you want? Do you want that smaller fan base that's loyal as hell to you, that will stick around and slowly grow? Or do you want that fan base of like everyone all at once, but then they slowly start fading away into not having anything for you anymore?
Yeah, and I think that garbage was also the wrong choice of the wrong choice of words for that too. Just like your fan base, like, you don't need to worry about your fans, because like I feel like the good fans will like accept change from time to time, because it's like, if we're still talking about rap, right? Like, let's talk about Lil Yachty, right? Like that new record, right? It went from Minnesota to like Pink Floyd things. I don't know what he did, but that was just like, the real fans, I guess, stick around for that.
I haven't heard it.
It's really good. It's really it's like his best thing that he's ever made, and I'm just like, wow.
So
I don't like at first, like, going into it, I'm like, I don't like this guy. I don't like what he's putting out. I don't like his music. But then I listened to this new one, and I'm like, ooh.
I might get low-key canceled for this, and it's going to probably create a lot of like...
Oh, no, I don't want to be here. Oh.
But for me, I am so picky on the music, and especially when it comes to things like rap. I am not a fan of all these Lils this or Young that.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I have to see the artistic endeavor into the craft itself. Like, music is such a personal and artistic thing that when I see these like rappers or something that sound like every other rapper, or that have some magical producer that can make them sound like $1 million, I'm like, you literally haven't differentiated. Like, I don't know you versus these other 20 guys that are trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with anything personal. Like, I'm sure they all have their own stories of why they're doing what they're doing. But as far as like advertising goes, I'm like, you literally, I can't tell you from you from you from you. Yeah. You guys all have the same message in your songs. You guys all have the same like flow. You guys all have similar voice. You guys all have a similar thing like this. And obviously, I know that rap is insanely popular and everyone loves all the new rappers that are up and coming and stuff. But I'm like, especially when they're not creating their own lyrics, I'm like,
that's
what are you doing?
Right. Yeah.
What's making you so popular or worthy of this clout? Like, and sometimes when I do hear them making their own lyrics, I'm like, that's literally the best you can come up with. Yeah. You rhymed that word with this word, which technically don't even rhyme. It's just the way that you're saying them makes them rhyme.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm like, there's literally nothing artistic here. You're literally just auto-tuning the shit out of your voice and then making $1 million.
Yeah. That's a weird one, right? Because it's kind of like, there are some people where I even like when I first listened to them, I'm like, I do not see the artistic value in this. What are y'all doing right now? But then over time, like there are these people that like I've said that to that I'm just like, I actually like you now.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see like where you're coming from and what was good.
There's been a few rappers like that for me.
Yeah, like at first, just like this is a hot take. I love Denzel Curry now.
Yeah.
But back in the day, he was making Ice Age, and I was just like, what is this?
Yeah.
what is this? And then he made Taboo, and I'm like, ooh, I like this.
Yeah.
And yeah, but then there are other people like Playboy Carti, where I was like, I listened to his first thing, and I was just like, what is this? This feels like a meme. This feels like meme music. I don't know like what this is about. And then I listened to Die Lit, and it's like, okay,
to
Die Lit, the album.
Oh, I haven't really listened to too much Denzel
Washington.
Yeah.
You haven't listened.
Yeah, I haven't really listened to too much Denzel Curry. There's Ultimate that I listened to.
Oh, I was talking about Playboy Carti. I wasn't talking about Denzel.
I've only heard like one or two songs from Playboy Carti. I think I don't really.
They're funny.
Really?
Yeah, it's basically like the second that you like catch on that it's just very much, just a funny man spewing funny things over a beat. It becomes such a fun. It just becomes such an entertaining listen.
I'll have to check it out.
You don't like. I don't think that even the fans take his music like seriously.
Really?
So it's just like you can have a good time going in regardless.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's weird. Sometimes he does say some serious stuff though, and when he does, it's like, ooh, I get that. But yeah, fans need to like be open to change.
Yeah.
We can't just like stick around to like the same thing again and again. That's my problem with Drake. But like we need to like let's go back to the main things, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you feel about Eminem getting back into the game and like all
Jesus.
these like older rappers from like early 2000s and stuff? What do you feel about them like getting back into the swing of things and trying to be super relevant again?
I think it's cute. I think
Cute.
it's cute. I think it's cute, but like it's not gonna work. Like there are still people like Bob Dylan still makes music.
True.
Bob Dylan still makes music.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to keep making music, but he does.
Yeah.
And whenever he releases something, I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Another Bob Dylan. I'm kind of like that with like Eminem and a bunch of these old rappers that are just, if they ever like put anything out.
It's more of a nostalgia thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's more just like, I see them, they're here. That's nice.
Yeah.
I don't think much of it though. Like they're not like, I can't say that they're like making like bangers and stuff. Like, but Nas, however, I think Nas is still like pumping.
No, not Lil Nas X.
Not Lil Nas X, like Nas, like Illmatic Nas. Like
Yeah.
he's I don't know, like the dude just constantly like finds a way to maintain relevancy. Like when it comes to like the King's Dead 2, like he got Lauryn Hill on that record.
Right.
Most people can't do that. Like most like you can't even like get Lauryn Hill out of like the little cave that she's hiding in. Like
Right.
you're telling me that like just that's wild. But
I'll
yeah.
admit, from like first appearance and stuff, I wouldn't expect you to be super relevant with like this kind of music and stuff.
I'm not. I don't think I even am. I think
You're a hell of a lot more relevant in this.
I
than
think
I
I'm
am.
even spewing bullshit by talking, but but yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, like my favorite artists like of all time. Gosh, like what more can I even think about? My favorite artist of all time is JPEG Mafia.
Okay.
Are you familiar with him?
No.
No. He has a recent album with Danny Brown called "Scaring the Hoes." I'd recommend it. It's
Yeah?
quite awesome.
I'll have to check him out.
You'll either like it or you'll hate it. You'll probably shut it off within seconds. But
Yeah?
like it's just it makes my day every time I listen to it.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's already been about an hour. I definitely appreciate you coming out and talking, and I know we didn't really get as personal as I wanted to get.
Not really.
But I mean, there's always next time.
You could cram in a personal question right now before we leave. If you
Yeah?
want.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's see. What is the biggest, like, mental type of, not downfall, but, like, the biggest mental struggle that you struggle with on a daily basis? or just throughout your life that you've been able to figure out a way to power through it?
Probably loneliness. I'd say that growing up, like I was talking about earlier, um, I had very terrible social skills growing up. Like I could talk one on one with people, but if I'm ever put in like a crowded situation with a bunch of friends all hanging out, I'd just be silent in the corner, just not associating with anybody.
Right.
And even that, like when it came to just like making friends or like forming romantic relationships and stuff, I was just like the last person to figure all that stuff out. And even then, now I still feel kind of like lost when it comes to all those things, because it's just like I enjoy talking about things, but I'm bad at like actually like forming friendships and like long term matchups with people. But basically, like I got really existential one day, and I was just sitting down on my couch, and I was just thinking about how like we really are just specks floating in an ever expanding like universe galaxy. Right. I promise this was not on weed. I promise, Mom, this was not on weed. But I was just thinking, and I kind of realized, I'm like, hey, if I'm just a speck, then that means everybody else that I know is a speck too, and that made me feel less alone.
So how did you overpower it to where you were able to kind of put yourself out there a little bit more, or connect with people? And like, have you figured out a way to kind of dig out of the loneliness a little bit, or is
because
that something that you still struggle with?
I think that like that's the thing though. Like I realized that like in that moment I'm not alone, and because of that I'm able to throw myself into things and like not worry about the repercussions, because it's just like one speck bumping into another speck, and like this huge massive thing of opportunities. It's not the end of the world if I were to go on stage and like give a speech. It's not the end of the world if I were to like talk with people on a podcast or just legit just associate with others. And also like searching for more like connections with people. It's not gonna. I'm not gonna grow to regret that, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. We're all human. We're all cool. Like that.
So is the loneliness, do you think it's gotten better since then?
I think so. I've just like been okay with it.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like I've just like.
Are you a lot more social now?
I'd say that I'm like more social, but I'm social when I choose to be.
So like intentionally social then?
I'm intentionally social, because it's like I get to choose like when I go in and out of conversations. I'm not like letting people kind of pull me into things that I know for certain are not going to go well.
Right.
Like just recently, for example, there was. I'll give you this example because this just happened actually. I have a friend from Texas, right? They were just like, "Oh, Will, you'd connect so well with this, like with my friend. She's very cute. You would love her. We should like form a conversation over like that." And I'm just like, long distance relationships do not work. I'm sorry, well, they don't. And she just kind of threw me in this conversation with this person, and as expected, it did not work. And I was just kind of, at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm not gonna let that happen again. I'm not gonna let people throw me into that situation, because that's just like uncalled for and messed up. Because I just kind of want to be in control of like what's going on in my day.
Right.
And yeah, if I choose to make a film with a bunch of people, I'll do that. If I choose to associate or like talk with a person that's in a completely different state, I'll do that. But it has to be out of like choice. I can't just be dragged into it.
Right. Yeah. You're kind of just putting more intention behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That was a big thing that I learned to do too, was just like completely being a lot more intentional with everything that you're doing, whether it's big, whether it's small, whether it's just like anything, decisions, time, everything. Because for me, it's like time is the most valuable asset that we don't get back. Doesn't matter how much money you have, doesn't matter this, that, we all have the same 24 hours. And so that was a big lesson that I've learned from a lot of like, especially like quote unquote successful people, is you have to be intentional with everything. You have to, like, obviously, yes, go with the flow of life and let life kind of throw you around a little bit, but be intentional with like relationships that you make, with people that you talk to. Don't like, be careful with the energy that you give out and energy that you absorb back in. Be intentional with all of it. So that's really awesome though, that you kind of found that intentional aspect, and I feel like that's something that could really help a lot of other people, because I know, especially like after the pandemic, loneliness was a huge thing, especially those that didn't have someone to be shut down with, you know.
And you don't want to like form connections with the wrong people.
Exactly.
You don't want to like basically I know some friends as well that were like, the second COVID happened, they got back with their exes.
Exactly.
Right, and it just kind of like, that's a huge regression. For what was going on.
Because like that was the only human connection they could find. And it's like not as much effort or anything. It's like, oh, well, we already had a past connection, so let's just connect again.
Even though they probably split up for very good reasons, and they just kind of threw themselves back in there. That's just dumb.
Well, Will, I appreciate you so much for coming on this podcast.
I'm glad to be here.
And I know we didn't really know each other before this, and I wish that we did kind of get a little bit more down and dirty, but this isn't the only time. I'm hoping that we'll definitely have more times to talk like this.
You could totally bring me back anytime.
Absolutely.
I'm totally cool with
that.
it.
No, I'm curious to see where this PBS job and stuff takes you, and to see where this movie directing and writing and making life takes you. So, with all that being said, that little outro that I was mentioning to you in the beginning, go ahead.
My name is Will Hoxie, and I have been unmasked, and thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Will. All right, we'll see you guys later.
Heck yeah. Nice.
Woo!
Cool. Yeah.
We'll do a quick little picture. Kind of get this going.
Yeah, totally.